Buddy, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where I live stream full content the first Sunday of every month at 9:30 a.m. unless I have a guest, which I do today. And when I have a guest, I allow for a full hour of content, and we begin at 9 a.m. On those Sundays in between the episodes of Coffee with the Critters, I live stream animal training, behavior and enrichment tidbits every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. So for those that may be new, welcome. My name is Laura Joseph. I'm owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We are an international educational center where we empower people all over the world, or empower animals all over the world, and the people that care for them. And you can find out more about what we do on our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. You can also reach me via email, and I answer every single email at Laura, Lara, at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. I'm just getting back from Columbus, the Columbus Zoo, where we had I attended the Zoological Association of America conference, where I did present and got to catch up with a lot of old acquaintances. It was great, and talk behavior and training, which is always great. You can always find more of the work that I do in my writing on my blog. I am going to also begin writing some articles. I'm happy to get back into that. And you can also find me on our contact information on our website, um, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. So, good morning, everybody. Hello, welcome. I have a guest on today, Trevor Smith, owner of Doggie Dojo. I am going to be bringing him on right now. Trevor is an acquaintance of mine. Hey, Trevor.
Hey, so excited to be on here.
So good to be in a live stream with you again. We used to live stream together, or at least get in touch with each other. How long ago was that? 7 years ago?
Oh, yes. And I see like in our chat right here, we have Therese Cocowato, which is like the beginning. She was with us and on the Petscope TV.
I remember. Oops. Um, Sorry, I clicked on something that took me off screen.
That's never good.
Yeah. Years ago on the Petscope TV. Yeah, this was when live streaming was just getting up and running, and
Yes.
a couple of us would get together and live stream different topics. That was fun. And it was Therese that I was thinking about you a couple of months ago. Once in a while, you'll pop across my social media feed, and Therese was like, Laura, you need to get in touch with Trevor. Have you seen what he's doing lately? He's doing some amazing things. So she brought it up, and I was like, funny you mentioned this, because I was just thinking about him. And then you and I got back in touch, and I said, let's start keeping in touch again.
Yes.
Before, I want people to know that follow the work that I do. I want them to know about you. But I'm going to go ahead and read your bio. So Trevor started training dogs at the age of 6. At the age of 16, he began instructing his own private lessons and classes. With over 20 years of experience in training dogs, his passion is to use his experience over the years to help people grow closer to their canine companions. He launched a dog training educational platform called Doggie Dojo. Yep. In 2015, he was invited for the first time to speak at the Association of Professional Dog Trainers Conference on his work with kids and dogs.
Yes.
He got invited. I'd like to hear more about that.
Okay.
He got invited back to speak in 2017 and 18. Trevor and his border collie Daisy made it to the finals in AKC Agility Nationals in 2019. Trevor is also a certified professional dog trainer and certified canine fitness trainer through the University of Tennessee. So with that being said, I mean, your bio is longer than that. And no, it's fun. I mean, if people want to read more about your bio, I'm happy to post it after this live stream. It's also, I posted it on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page last night so
Sweet.
people could read more in detail. So, you started your work with dogs and kids?
Yes. So, being a kid, starting with my mom as training dogs. Like at the age of 3 and 4 years old, I was helping her in classes and stuff like that, doing what I could do at ages of 3 and 4 years old. I get a better perspective now because I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and so it's been really great, cool to see that. But growing up, we did lots of kids training with dogs, and we did this thing called Club Pup Kids Camp. So cool, where the kids got to bring their own dog to Club Pup Kids Camp. And if they had like siblings, like if they siblings want to go on the same week of camp, we'd find the sibling a rescue dog, a dog from a shelter or a rescue group, and that sibling could bring the rescue dog through the kids camp, and they learn all these behaviors. So not only did their own personal dog get to learn all this great training with dog agility tricks and how to take care of the animal, the dog, as it was a rescue dog from a shelter or something like that, also got the training. And at the end of it, was more adoptable and it had a lot of skills already set in. All this footage and pictures too of the dogs doing all these cool things. So it was just a really cool experience growing up, doing these kids camps with my mom over the years. And I think she's still doing them, and she does them every summer. I think they just crossed over 20-year anniversary on that. So it's been really cool to see that that whole process with kids and training dogs.
Which is extremely important, reaching kids at that age.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times kids grow up thinking other things about dogs. And, I know, well, I don't know if I want to get into this, but some people learn from a very young age or are taught that dogs are expendable. If this one doesn't work out,
Right.
let's go for a different one.
No, I think that's a really good important topic to talk about because I think it's not, it's definitely that stems from, an understanding. And, sadly, I think it's not necessarily, we're not trying to look, down, of course, anybody that thinks that right now. Even currently, we're just educating people. I think that's just a lack of education on both the adult and the kid end to understand like dogs aren't expendable. They are part of our family. And I think we definitely, as a culture, as a society, have gotten better about that. Dogs used to live in the backyard, or they wouldn't come inside, and now of course that's just totally flip-flopped, and they're just like part of the family now, and there's all these activities that we're doing with dogs these days, and there's like I would say in the last 5 years at least like 5 or 6 other new dog sports that you can do with your dog have also started up, that I think that the culture and society has led to, like, hey, now we can do things like in my neighborhood, because I live in Austin, Texas. There's all these places you can go with your dog now. It used to be like, dogs can't come here, where now businesses are starting to realize that, oh, people have dogs. If we advertise that you can bring your dog, we get more people to come. So
Yeah,
it's really
people
cool to
want
see.
to be with their dogs.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a couple different directions I want to go right now, but just talking about how watching the animal community, the people animal community evolve over the years has been pretty outstanding, pretty amazing from what I've seen since I've been in this. I know the species of animal that got me into the work that I do today, which has evolved as well, um, was the parrot.
Yes.
And when I got this parrot, which is Rico, he'll be 21 coming this spring. I quickly learned this is a high maintenance animal. And by high maintenance, I mean he was so active beyond anything I had ever known before. Um, the only animal I had before him were dogs.
Right.
And Rico has taught me so much, and Rocky and Coco and DC, and the list now just goes on. But watching how the animal community has evolved, I know, so I've had Rico not quite 21 years, but I know I dove right into foraging because I couldn't keep this little turd occupied
Yeah.
and out of everything else in my house.
Right.
So even foraging has evolved so far. I mean, so far. I know it was huge in the parrot community like 19 years ago. And then I started seeing that shift into the dog community.
Right.
Um, Now, using positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis is pretty much across the board. I wish I saw it even more with some species of animals, but we're getting there. And that's why I have people like you on my show to help
Yeah.
show people and have conversations like this to say this using positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis is applicable across species,
Right.
and we can never stop learning how to know how to do better.
And that's the crucial key that you were talking about earlier about like foraging. And something I learned from one of your live streams, your Coffee with the Critters, was the contra freeloading concept and things like that. Is the idea of these animals, whether it be a bird or dog or cat, are craving interaction and craving mental stimulation. That you can you're not like not necessarily like it's illegal or anything like that just to keep putting food in the bowl for an animal. It's just that it's amazing to me, like when you see like a bird. I have some parrots as well. When you have like a bowl full of food, and you give them a foraging puzzle, they just leave that bowl alone. Like they don't care about it. So they'd rather just forage in there. And I've seen that with my dog training stuff. People are gonna like laugh because it's probably not their dog, because so many dogs are so used to getting food out of a bowl that my dogs personally, I could put a bowl of food on the ground, but if I want them to work or play or do something, they'd actually rather just leave that food bowl alone on the ground and come and work and play with me. And I think that's just like a testament. Like, I think people will be surprised how much if you take that food out of the bowl and put it into your hand and start training and working with your dog, a lot of dogs just like go, "Well, this is so much better than a bowl of food."
Yeah.
First they'll look at you kind of crazy, like, I'm only getting like half my breakfast this morning. Why is that? Like, I've seen videos too of people like messing with dogs, like where they put like 2 or 3 kibbles in a bowl, and the dog goes like, I get fed more than that. So, yeah,
So when we're putting the food in the bowl and the dog doesn't go towards the bowl and it goes towards the training,
yeah,
that is a perfect example of contra freeloading. And there's many theories as why contra freeloading, excuse me, happens. And one of it is and I was just talking about this yesterday with the ring-tailed lemurs. One of it is because the training involves mental and physical stimulation.
right.
Um, we do the same thing. Well, no, we don't.
No, like yeah, like honestly, like yeah, we could say like we like to work for our food, stuff like that. But if someone like if we could ring a bell and someone would bring us the food to our bed, then especially breakfast, we'd be totally completely happy with that. But there is something to that, because like there's this great or a really big YouTuber called Mr. Beast and things like that, and he's done, of course, like say like I wouldn't say safe experiments, but like he'll have someone in isolation and they get all their food and all their water and all their stuff, not torturing anybody, but they'll just be in isolation for an extended period of time. And people would rather like leave, and they're getting paid like, so that like in these YouTube videos they're getting paid like something like ridiculous, like $10,000 a day to be in isolation. And you think I could live there forever if I'm getting paid $10,000 a day, but you'd be surprised how many people like crave interaction. Because like usually about halfway through these challenges, he'll like bring their family members in to have like a visit, and then when the family members leave, that's how he gets them. Because like they had this taste back of their family and their loved ones and their relationships, and they like, oh man, I miss that. I'd leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table so I could get one more day back with my family. And I think that's something innate in dogs, innate in birds, innate in us as people. We crave interaction and crave relationships. And as much as we say, of course, on a scientific scale, that animals have primary needs like food and water, it almost gets to a point like one of those primary needs is that being seen and having a relationship with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. That social interaction. And I know we were talking the other day, Friday, about how attention. Oh, that we were talking Friday about how there are so many more reinforcers than just food. So many times people think that when we're training, it's just for food. The social interaction is a huge part of training and enrichment. Um, I know a lot of us felt that way during COVID,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I remember one of the things I said, I was like, wow, all these people via social media were making comments about, oh, I'm going crazy sitting in my
Yeah.
house for 2 to 3 days. I
Right.
was like, okay, think about how our animals are feeling, are they getting enough of this mental and physical interaction? I
Yeah.
think regardless, I think that has
I think, like,
changed.
to your point too, like with the birds, like that's something that we see a lot too, because birds, seemingly, you can just put food and water in a bowl over and over and over again, and and have them off in the corner. And we don't mean to be cruel or mean to our animals in any way, but at the end of the day, that's when you start to see those other behaviors, those cry outs or call outs, of like screeching and squawking and all these things, so they want to do something more. We see this in dogs. We see this all the time when dogs are actually quite literally jumping up on us, chewing up our stuff. A lot of the times, it's a crave for attention. It's a crave to want to interact. For instance, I have a brand new puppy. He's the Baihu, and I like had a completely different shift with him when it came to toy training and understanding like objects. Because what happened is, in the past as a dog trainer, if my dog grabbed my shoe, it's like, you're not supposed to have my shoe. But how's he supposed to know
Right.
that's shoe? It's rubber and cloth, and how many dog toys are made out of rubber and cloth? And so what I did is just, of course, redirect it. Say, oh, thank you, buddy, for bringing my shoe. I'm a trick dog guy. I just got back from Dallas doing a dog trick performance with my dogs. And what if I want him to teach him to go retrieve my shoe one day so I could put it on? Like if I punish him in that moment of like, don't you dare grab my shoe, that trick's gone. It's really just gone. And any other toys, like any rubber, if he doesn't understand that, like that's specific to just that shoe, and he thinks like anything in his mouth is wrong, and then we start to destroy the retrieving behavior. And gosh, kid, like retrieving and playing fetch with the dog is like one of the coolest ways we can interact and play with our dogs. So changing your mindset around some of these things is really important, that you don't have to always like come in there as like angry beaver and come down on your dog. Like take a step back for a moment. It's like, why is my dog doing this? Why is my dog jumping up on me, grabbing my stuff, all these things? And sometimes you have to realize like, oh, they're wanting attention, or they're bored. That's a big one. What can I do to help them with a foraging puzzle?
Yeah. And by you mentioning that, when you answer that why is my dog jumping up on me? When you can answer that question, you have just identified a reinforcer.
Right.
And I tell people a lot of times, build your list of reinforcers. I believe we were talking about this the other day as well. Build your list of reinforcers, because in a split second, they can change.
Yeah.
And if we were also talking about this at ZAA, the word choice and control was thrown around a lot. I used the 3 C's, choice, control, and complexities, and I have used those words for the past 20 years. When we need to keep control of our animals to a certain extent for their safety. So if their reinforcers can change at a split second in a with an environmental event that just changed that you weren't expecting, you need to be able to pull a reinforcer from that bag that you are going to offer to that animal when they give it to you when you request it, which is extremely important. I never ask a behavior I can't deliver a reinforcer for.
That's a really good point. Wow. Because I think sometimes that's something we hope we always try to do. And I think we're talking about this on Friday as well. Keep mentioning this like Friday thing. I was like, what happened Friday? I got a chance to interview the wonderful Laura on Doggie Dojo Friday. So definitely, you could just check it out. I'm not trying to promo my stuff or anything like that, Laura, but at the same time, we keep mentioning Friday. But I would say we mentioned a little bit on this before. The fact is, we want to Disneyfy the relationship with our animal, and it's okay to like kind of think about our animal, in a Disneyfied way. But when it comes to them, a lot of times we'll train a new behavior to an animal, and then eventually, what would be 2 days later or 2 weeks later, we think, well, okay, you've done this for me, 50 times. You should know it now. I don't have to give you a treat anymore. And the animal was like, wait, you're going to stop reinforcing me? And without any other types of reinforcers set in place, sometimes it does take a little bit to build, whether it be pets reinforcement, verbal reinforcement, all that stuff like that. But at the same time, when a dog doesn't have value for those reinforcers, they don't have value for a toy reinforcer or anything like that, it's really hard to say like, well, you're not getting paid with food anymore. You're gonna get paid with a toy that you don't love. And you go like, well, if I'm not getting paid or I'm not getting reinforced for these behaviors, why am I here? What am I doing? So
Yeah. And it's the same with us. There's sorry, I've got both my dogs sitting by my side. Um it's the same with us. If there's nothing of value to
right,
us in a situation, we're not going to do it.
right,
And we're not going to keep doing it. And so many times I see, especially in the workforce, um, behavior punished because of how we try to manage the people. I know I'm bringing people into this, but what I'm talking about is the science of behavior and how it's relative to all. If we work in a coercive environment, meaning do it or else, Trevor, you have seen what
yeah,
impact it has on behavior.
yeah,
If I work in an environment where I'm treated like do this or else, why do this? And I question, why should I do that? Because I said so. I'm going to give you
right.
as little as I can just to get the job done and get the hell out of there.
Right. And I
Oh,
had that. I had that actually at a workplace like that where I had to make a decision for myself to say, you know what, it's not working anymore. The value wasn't there. I wasn't being treated very nicely, so I left, and it was I loved the job. I loved what I was doing there, but I just said, I had to take care of myself. But as a human, we have that choice. Dogs do too, and animals do too. They do have that choice to leave the training session a lot of times, and we see that, and that gets very frustrating for both parties. But not to the extent of like like that job I was working at. Like I don't talk to those people anymore. I've moved on. I've gone out somewhere else. I have the ability to do that. Where this animal that you brought into your life, unless you're willing to like rehome them, with such a family, which I'm not advocating for that necessarily. But like your animal has to stay living with you so they can learn to ignore you. And we've of course we've had these with our family members sometimes too, right? Especially if we go to these family holidays, we get together. So there's certain somebody that you don't quite get along with, or the aunt or uncle or something like that, and you're just like, just avoid them. So we see that with sometimes our animals like that, where you get ignored and the animal doesn't work with you because they don't understand. And so we kind of discussed a bunch of problems. Like, what are the ways what do you think are the ways that we could get back to a solid relationship with our animal? Like, what do you think of those like key things that kind of trigger us or move us into a way to develop or build that relationship with them?
yeah, and that just came to mind right as you were going down this topic. I've had people approach me as well saying, I don't have a great relationship with this animal. And I was like, how do I change it? And I was like, you want to know how to change it? Train it.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only, well, not the only reason. It's the primary reason why I train animals, because I want that strong relationship with that animal. So when I want a strong relationship with an animal, and sometimes I don't even know I want it, it just starts developing because I'm training it. Because I've found that using the type of training that we do, Trevor, it is the most effective, clear form of communication I've had with any animal.
Right. Yeah. And we had someone chime in. Welcome to the Philadelphia Police Department. I'm
That's
guessing.
Steve.
Yeah. So I'm guessing a hard workplace there is what I'm guessing that. Or we're the Philadelphia Police Department's watching us now. It just both is this is great. But hopefully for good reasons. I hope we haven't done anything. But yeah, to train it, like, for on my end, just to get people attention, because I think there's people that are probably like chomping at the bit, like, tell us how to get a better relationship with my dog. Trevor, I can hear that question, like, kind of like, I think everyone's asking that right now. Like, so go back to my Stabai, I am in love with what I have with him now. Of course, I've had border collies, I've had terriers, I've had all sorts of different breeds. This is my first sporting breed to have, and type breed to have, and he loves playing with toys and interacting. And by not squashing any of that toy training, like, I get him playing with anything, any toy, anytime, and he loves to interact with me. And I think as a human, we love to play and interact with our animals. We also love to play and interact with each other. And we talk about having the fun element. And so in some of my training videos I've done recently, I tried to, like, always end with a toy training game, because I think it's so incredibly important to have that relationship with toys, because it just makes training fun. So there's this really great game you can do called Jazz Up, Settle Down. And this comes from Dr. Ian Dunbar. I can't take credit for it, but I learned it from him, where you are training with your dog, and what you'll do is it's a good game to end on. You'll start to play with them and interact with them and engage them, get them excited. And sometimes if your dog loves toys, great. But if it's just running around like a crazy person in the house with your dog, just like dogs do with each other, like bouncing around and having some fun. And then what you'll do is you'll ask them for a sit or some sort of settling type behavior, and get them to calm down, or ask them for a trick, like shake a paw or something like that. And then you'll go back to playing again and playing to engaging them and having fun with them, and then running around or whatever. And what's fun is that what you'll start to see when you start doing this is every time you start to settle them down and ask for behavior, they'll do the behaviors more quickly and more enthusiastically, because they know if I get settled and I calm myself down and I listen to what they're saying when I'm in this high excitement arousal phase, like high excitement things, then they will get back to playing. And it makes it just more fun to see, to be with you. And it teaches them so many great behaviors. Like, how many of you guys have had that problem with your dog where the company comes over and they're going, "Company's here, wow!" And you just need them settled down, settle down.
Yeah.
This game kind of exhibits that thing. Like, I can get you to go here, and this is something in dog agility. So I have people that didn't know. You mentioned it in the bio and things like that. I compete heavily in dog agility. That is a high excitement sport. The dogs are going through all these obstacles, and their brains just firing like crazy and having such a blast with me. But they also need to, like, focus in and hear what I'm saying, because I have to lead them from obstacle to obstacle to obstacle. So that jazz up and settle down, getting a dog to go from here and then back down, here and then back down, is an important skill I must have. But also, it's just fun, it's engagement and fun.
Yeah, it's just fun. And you mentioning that, I used to do that with Quincy, my Rottweiler,
Yeah.
where we would go out in the other center, which was 10,000 square feet, and I would get her all riled up, and she would be running, not me. And then I would just say, "Down." I would ask for a down. I wouldn't give a command, and I wouldn't scream at her, but it was part of the excitement of the training.
Right.
And she'd be running full speed, and I'd say, "Down," and boom, she'd go down, and you could see the excitement on her face, and she's like, "Tell me when, tell me when." There was no force in that, and she participated because she loved it. It was enrichment for her, and that's why I did it.
And was there any food or treats involved in that?
No food.
No. And so we have to get to games like that. We have to start doing more games with our dogs that are just more fun. And sometimes in the beginning stages, because there's some dogs or animals, they build that habit of getting reinforcement with food. And you were talking about this earlier and on Friday too. It's like, reinforcement is what the animal tells reinforcement is. And if they've been conditioned that reinforcement is food and treats, and not toys, some of you guys are going to go out there right now, ask your dog to sit and throw a toy in their face, and it's going to go and fall off their face. And you're like, what? like, what do you mean a toy? Like, I don't play with toys with you. So you have to build that up. Then you have to start training them. And some of those things you can do, like we're talking about foraging puzzles as well. Like, a great way to auto toy train your animal is, like, those toys that you could put food into. and they start to learn to interact with that. And you'll sit there, if you sit there with them and you stick like a piece of food or treat or whatever, like one kibble or treat in there, they'll interact with it, they'll play with it, and then you go, good job, and you'll get it again, and you'll put more food in, and the dog realizes, like, oh, wait, hold on. Okay, if I eat the food out of here and it's empty, I bring it back to the human, they put more in it. Oh, cool. And they eat the more, I'll bring it back to the food and they'll put more in it. What do you have? You have fetch. Oh my gosh. And so it's crazy how much dogs learn. Like, oh, the human knows how to put the food in this thing. I want more food in this thing. It's fun to put food out of this thing, but they will bring it. And like people talk about all the time how the dogs will bring them puzzle toys. And so now you have the beginnings of a fetch behavior, and then you can start to like toss the toy and have them come grab it and bring it back and all that stuff. So those that are struggling, how to get my dog to play with more toys, that's just a real quick way within a matter of a week, minimum, that the dog's going to start to learn that human puts food in toy, and I want to bring this toy to human to do that. So,
yeah, and I want to talk about a couple of different things, Trevor, because talk about how this is applicable across species. But one thing I want to mention before we move on is I told you I just I think almost not even 3 weeks ago I moved to a new home.
Right.
And I was gone all last week at the ZAA conference. So I had to make that move very fast. There wasn't a lot of time for me to play. Playing. And I live with a deaf bulldog and a deaf and blind border collie. So I know that boom, fast move like that did not go without stress. There was some stress involved.
Right.
And I knew some stress on the dogs and myself. I knew that was going to happen. But seeing it happen, my anxiety started rising, and I recorded every single step of the way. But I wanted to mention the first night we stayed in this house, and the dogs, I don't think they realized they weren't going back home yet. I saw it on their face that in their behaviors that they were ready to go back home. And so I needed to let them know that wasn't going to happen. So I started training them. And that's when I saw the perkiness, they became, their facial behaviors changed.
Right.
Their body posture changed to what I correlate with what I see with them, which is excitement.
Right. And, and it's a very human thing response as well. Like, there's that movie, great movie from Pixar. I love Pixar, Inside Out, and a family moves, and they move, and it's all about the daughter dealing emotionally inside the brain. And like, there's all these different emotions in the brain. If you haven't seen this movie, it's really cute. And it's called Inside Out. And they just came out with the second one. I can't wait to see that, where the daughter is dealing with anger and frustration, sadness, and all this stuff like that, and head from the move. And that happens with our animals too. It's like, where'd all my stuff go? Like, I don't know where to sleep. I don't know what to do. Like, are we going to eat tonight? Like, it gets stressful, like, with them. And then I love the fact that you approached it with training, because left to their own devices, a couple things can happen. One, they could start to exhibit behaviors you don't want them to do. It's like, well, I didn't do that. I didn't like jump up on the counter and steal food at my old home. Well, maybe here I do, like, so you'll start to see that by like establishing a training protocol. You get the things you want your dog to do properly inside the new home, but also at the same time, you get back to normalcy, especially if a dog that's been trained to work with you. And enrichment and getting that positive reinforcement within that environment. It's like, okay, cool. I love this place. It's great.
Yeah. And I did see that very quickly with one of my dogs, Snow, my deaf and blind one. She was the one I was most worried with. So I was like, I've got a perfect condition reinforcer here that I can roll with. And that is new house training, increase in training. She enjoys the training. So when we moved here, I was training all the time. And then I slowly started, because I couldn't do anything else but train. Then I slowly started fading it down to a manageable amount of time. And she's adjusted beautifully.
And what a cool experiment, like to be able to have that opportunity. It's sad that your dog's deaf and blind, but like, every other dog, you could say, there could be like visual cues, like their crate or their dog bed or your stuff, and like they can look around the house and like do like a quick like scan, like, okay, well, this is fine. Like where a deaf and blind dog, it's like they have their nose, which is great because dogs that use their nose a ton to interact with their world, but they usually use their eyes and their ears to like confirm what they're smelling. Like, and so all these new smells are coming in, new place, and it's like, okay, how do I navigate this, land? And by bringing it back to training the dogs, like, okay, that's one thing I know to do. I can do that, and one day at a time. And so it just helps them just like take a step by step by step. I love that.
Yeah. Well, we've only got 20 minutes left, Trevor, and this time is flying with you, which
Yeah.
Which
people put their questions in down below if you guys have specific questions or anything like that. Whether we can, if you're watching this on like Restream, like later too, like people Restream Petscope TV. We should say that all the time. If you're watching this on replay, Restream, things like that, put your comments down below because definitely we'll get them answered in the future too.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people are going to watch that are going to watch this are not watching the live stream. They'll watch it at a later date.
Right.
And as long as you post your questions, Trevor and I will still be alerted and jump back on.
Yeah, so everybody in the comments, I can come back.
You're going to see Trevor again.
That'd be great. I'm loving this conversation. It's been great.
I've got a couple of different ideas too, Trevor. I'll talk to you about it later, but a couple of things. So I want to help make emphasis to people watching this live stream that when training or interacting with animals, there's a presentation I give called Same Science, Different Species.
Mm-hmm.
How do we go from here? Like yesterday, I had mentioned to you, I was working with the wolves, the ring-tailed lemurs. I was working with some camels and what else? Oh, some chickens. So I was approached to help show a keeper how to train these two camels. And one of the questions was, and I'm sure you can see the relativity here. So we've got these two young camels. I don't know how young they are because I would say under 2.5. You could see a history of reinforcement with one, and you could tell it was well practiced. So I could tell this behavior had been there for a while. It was a behavior the keeper did not want.
Right.
So she wants to train these two camels. But the one camel, so here's the little or smaller camel.
Right.
Here's the bigger camel, and the trainer's on the other side of the cattle gate. And every time the keeper tried to approach, and the small camel tried to approach the keeper, the bigger camel would come in between and just constantly came back and forth, that younger camel out of the way, causing the younger camel to roar more, just whine and begging for whatever the reinforcer was. So the question for me was, I want to train both of these. Can I train both of them, or do I separate them and train one at a time? Right. And I'd like to get your
camel. Easy to do with a dog, because that would definitely be an answer you could do with a dog. It's like, let's just train one at a time for now. But camel in the same enclosure.
Yeah. So my response was, what do you want? Because you can do it either way. Do you want to train them both at the same time? Right. Do you want to train one and the other one at different times and then bring them together? Because you could do it the same. I said, but let me show you how to do it right here, right now, with these two, with this behavior concern. What do you want them to do instead? Mm-hmm. So that's the approach she took. And she sent me a 5.5-minute training session last night, and it worked beautifully.
Great. Yes, that's awesome. I have a guess or theory about what she did, but like I'm sure she had like a reinforcement station for one camel versus another area, so that way they knew, like, okay, I had to be here to get my reinforcer versus over here to get my reinforcer. So I don't know, like, what was the solution?
What the solution was, and it was just on the fly. So she had a bucket of carrots, and I was like, okay, I'm not a big fan of luring,
Right.
but I do use it. And luring is showing the positive reinforcer, but the fallout is people rely on it and it doesn't teach contingency, meaning the animal doesn't understand exactly what behavior is earning the reinforcer. So
Right.
these camels are big, like they're standing above our heads like this. So I said I would start with we had a little disc of carrots, put one in each hand, and due to, let's say, you can see me spreading my arms out like that. That's what I did, is just went
Mhm.
like this and constantly boom, over and over till I got those two camels separated,
Right.
that arm's length distance. And then I started doing it slower. And then I suggested starting to cover and then using the bridge. We introduced good to mark that behavior. So we went like this with our hands covered. And as soon as they would both look at the hands and keep that distance, good. And then we opened the hands. And then you just kind of create a station. She goes, do I always have this camel on this side and this camel on this side, or don't I care? And I said, that's up to you. What do you want? And
Right.
she's and her decision was, I don't care as long as they're keeping the distance. And I was like, beautiful,
Yeah.
run with it,
Right.
go with
I mean,
it.
yeah, because you can't. You definitely could have two different stations and separated, and yeah, it cleans things up. Like that makes it easy for them. Like, okay, this is my station, it's your station. But then it, like you think about it, like it's what if you have to reinforce the animal away from that station? Then it's like it puts like this complex, and the animals are like, I don't know how to get reinforcement from somewhere else. Like, so it's it definitely dogs, camels, birds, they definitely like to have a rhythm and a groove on things, and that can help and that can hurt us at the same time. If you're always doing the same thing over and over consistently, you get consistency. But then when you try to change up the order of events, they're like, I can't do this. Like so. We have to do. That's a dog agility too. It's like every time we go on course, it's a different course. They can't. It's not the same pattern every time like that. And a lot of times when you see these amazing trick dog performances, like at SeaWorld or whatever, or like animals and birds, they do the same routine over and over and over again. So the animals just kind of get in a habit, get in a groove. If they were to change the routine, all of a sudden the animals would be like, "Well, that's not next." Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so
that's important. And variety is a reinforcer. I mean, just like we were talking earlier about, you were saying the jazz and whatever. I can't remember what you calls
yeah,
it, where you
so
jazz
settle
it.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, that's variety. That's
yeah,
variety. That's spontaneity. One thing I don't want to punish with an animal is curiosity. When I see them
ooh,
curious,
yes.
when I see a curious animal, I'm like, oh, we're getting ready to have a lot of fun,
And
And
that goes back to my Stabihu with grabbing objects and toys. I see that, like you're talking about that. I see that curiosity in him. Like, oh, what if I bring my dad this? And what if I do this? Like, there's just like a curiosity element. So one of the cool things that's happened with that now, like I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, like I told about before, when she finishes her milk, my Stabihu now grabs the bottle and brings it to me in the kitchen. Like it did that the first day, and I was just like, I didn't teach you that. But like I've reinforced bringing me things, and now it knew like Dad gets that bottle and brings it to the kitchen, put it in the sink. Oh, I can help with that. And I thought that's like it's just so cool. Like when you don't destroy curiosity and you foster it. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But sorry, continue. But like it
no,
just you just made like my brain fire when it came to that curiosity word.
yeah, my point was, don't punish curiosity. And when we're talking about non-food reinforcers, where the amount of reinforcers that are not food are so many times more than food.
Mm,
Um, so variety can be a reinforcer. Like you said, free flying birds in a show, if you only do the same thing all the time, studies show that with predictability comes boredom.
yeah,
Um, and so many trainers can get stuck and their animal, just the animal that they're training just finds them boring, and you go to train and your animal flies, walks, or swims away. Peace
right,
out. I'm out of here. This
right.
is old news. So variety can be a reinforcer. Don't forget to use it. And I'm not telling you that. I'm just commenting on that.
Right.
So in Trevor, once this live stream is over, if you want, just to, I think it'd be fun for the viewers to see little blips of videos of training that we're talking about. Like,
Right.
I would love to show, let me ask this keeper if she doesn't mind if I show a blip of her training session with the
Right.
camel yesterday afternoon, because what came next is she showed me this video and I sat here and watched it about 5:30 last night. I was like, that was pretty damn good.
Okay.
So I told her that because I knew it was going to be a positive reinforcer for her to know that. And I said, instead of instructing her, because I don't like instructing people, I said, would you like me to tell you where you could go next? Because what she did from then was she started using a hand target and getting this camel to go from here to here. And I'm just watching this camel learning. And I was
Yes.
like, this is beautiful.
So cool.
And then she goes, we've got this down. And you see the camel come up. And I watched within 5.5 minutes this camel learn a couple different things. But you see this camel come up and she's like, touch. And she looks at the hand and she goes, boop. And bam. Um, so she's going back and forth. And I said, start adding in variety, but don't forget the side by side training you've already done. Now go up, go down, over, up,
Lovely.
down, back,
Yes.
back. Start mixing in variety in with what it already knows.
That's cool because like I do that, with my dogs just naturally, but I didn't think of the why dogs why we other than just like proofing the behavior, like we're proofing it, but at the same time I realized that also could be such an enriching thing for the animal too. That by doing the variety, it actually becomes more fun than just the norm. Okay, left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, up, yeah, cool. Oh, over here. Okay, that's cool. It keeps them engaged, because it's like, we've done that too. I think that's one of the things too. Like our boring commutes back and forth to works. Sometimes we get these like little brain blips where we're thinking about something else and like, oh, I've been driving for 20 minutes and somehow I'm already home. Like I don't realize what happened, like what was around me, because the boredom of the routine, like I'm driving this drive all the time. We don't hope for variety on the ride home or ride to work. we, we really like normalcy. Don't get me wrong. We don't like the variety, but that's just like a case of boredom. You get into routine, it just becomes like the dogs. Like, are they actually truly interacting? Or are they just following a script?
A pattern. Yeah. A pattern, and and boredom can lead to, like, this was my talk at the Zoological Association last week, was when we have boredom, if you don't provide the enrichment, the animal is going to find its own enrichment. And with animals that are under our care, be careful, as if the more intelligent the animal, the harder it is to keep. If you can't provide the enrichment or provide areas for it to appropriately seek out its own enrichment, the animal is going to find its own enrichment, and it's probably not going to be something you like.
Right.
And those that I talked about, a behavior issue that started turning medical because an abnormal repetitive behavior developed out of boredom. Um, and this animal was getting ready to have surgery, and it was a pretty intense surgery. And I just said, stop. I see this. I can identify reinforcers by what this animal is looking at. Let Before the choice is made to move to surgery, let me put this behavior modification plan in place. And we implemented it, and two potential medical issues are now gone because it started as a behavior issue. Um, and we changed it with a behavior modification plan.
That's awesome. Like just I think like that's maybe a topic we definitely could dive into more, in a future video too. Like, let us know, guys. It's something too, like how to get out of the rut. I think a lot of times we get into these ruts with behavior, So, excuse me this time. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's like, how do we progress a dog trick? Sometimes it's how do we stop this behavior we don't want the dog or animal to be exhibiting. There's, sometimes it's really hard to break out of the rut. And a lot of things we've touched on kind of help with that, with reinforcers and all that stuff. But I think it's sometimes really hard for us to like break out of that rut with our animal.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes hard too, because, we can give definitely general advice, but I love that you gave the example of the camel, that a lot of people loved it. Looked like, Debbie was like, great work with the camel. Like she, the fact is like, it's so cool to like hear that because it applies directly to our life with our dogs, here, Doggie Dojo land here that, when you're working with multiple animals, a couple things are really cool that can happen. One is you can get them, you can prove things like there's an inherent distraction with the other animal. It's, I get this all the time too, like you talked about, like do I separate them? Do I have them work together? It's like, well, what do you want? And, depending on what this dynamic between the two dogs is, you definitely could separate them. If that, having reinforcers comes to a sign of contention, we got to figure that out. Like if my dogs can't get along with the same reinforcer in the same room, then that's a whole different topic. We got to figure out how to do that before we can even consider bringing them together for training, because there's an emotional component there too, like where they are. They're not going to be in a good learning environment if they're in constant contention with one another. So that's a cause for separation. But another thing that's what I've seen that's really cool with dogs, and I know it happens with all different species, is they actually learn from one another. They see, oh, that dog's doing a sit stay. Oh, I'll try to do a sit stay. And then the dogs start to learn, like, hey, that dog's coming when called and getting a cookie. Well, I want a cookie. I'll come when called. So actually working together and combining efforts is great. And I get that all the time too, where people are like, they get a puppy, and about 6 months down the road, the puppy's getting hyper and crazy, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. Do I get a second puppy so they can play with one another? That's like so common, because it's like, well, my dog has all this energy. How do I get rid of all this energy? I'll get another dog and twice the amount of energy, because life will be so much better when you do that. You're laughing. You know exactly where this is going. And then that's when I normally get involved too, because they realize their mistake, that the fact is now they have two crazy puppies that need attention and enrichment, not just one crazy puppy. Or they'll do that. They'll buy two from the same litter, which is a whole nother mess. Yeah. And it's like, well, then they can interact and grow up together. And definitely, it's definitely possible. I have two puppies, and I have Friday and Bolt that are from the same litter, and it's definitely possible. But you have to also treat them as individuals as well. They're in conjunction with each other. But it's one of those situations where you have to focus in on the enrichment. What is that individual animal's needs, even though they are in a group? And this is, I can imagine, something that you deal with constantly at zoos, because they typically will have one animal, but like most of the time it's like they have multiples. And that's important because they do need to live in a group setting. So.
Yeah. And like I had mentioned to you before, I walked into a flock of 25 chickens yesterday with a keeper, and I said, I really want to train these chickens. Where do you even start? Because they were like, I'm like, I don't know. I've never really interacted with them before. I won't know. So I walked in with a treat pouch full of Cheerios, and I just sat and observed. Are they running from me? Are they flying up onto perches? What are they going to do? And then I gave her a handful of Cheerios, and I said, break these into about eighths and just start flipping them out. And sure enough, I was careful whether I was standing up straight over top of them, whether I was bending over like this, because that's usually like a prey animal they're going to flee as soon as you bend over top of them. I eventually started bending over top of them, and then I just started dropping around my feet to get all these chickens to come close to me. And then I slowly started bending over so I could see, yeah, you could have one dropped on the ground, or you could have one laying on the ground. right here it is in my finger at eye level.
Yeah.
Which one, you know? And at first they were really hesitant and they wouldn't take it, but I just kept offering it. And an eighth of a piece was dropped on the ground. But if you took it from eye level, you get the whole shebang.
Ooh, that's cool. I'm sure they picked up on that pretty quickly.
They did. I think I had about 4 regularly eating from my hand after we trained for about 5 minutes and we left.
That's awesome. And we talked about this too. Like, you made it easy. You made the choice easy to get the food out of your hand. You didn't have to do anything special. Just interact with me and get food out of my hand. And I think I really want to, especially this could be a good point to kind of wrap towards. But you have to make reinforcement. The consistency is great. Of course, when your dog does something, you give them reinforcement. Dog does something, give them reinforcement. But I think even more so important is like just the clarity. Like just here's what you need to do to get reinforcement. When you do it, here's your reinforcement. Because what happens so often, and I see this, of course, in dog agility. Just give you an example. Like the dog does jump, cookie, tunnel, cookie, obstacle, cookie, toy, whatever it is, the reinforcement is. And then when we start to combine the obstacles into like 20 obstacle courses, sometimes people get a little greedy and they'll ask for a jump and a tunnel, weave pulls and A-frame. And by the time they get down to the fifth obstacle, the dog's like, where's my reinforcement? Because it's so used to getting the rhythm, like we talked about, consistency. But the problem is some of these obstacles, like the jump bar, they can knock the jump bar. And the weave poles, they can pop out of weave poles. And the A-frame, they can jump the yellow contact. And there's all these like really specific criterias that the animal has to get. And when they don't get the reinforcement because they messed up on the criterias, then eventually the animal starts going like, I have no clue how to get reinforcement from this person. And you'll see this dog start to sniff for treats on the ground. Like there could be treats on the field. There probably is a treat on the field. They probably can smell there's maybe something out there, but there's no like guarantee there is a thing out there. And then you start getting a dog over and over again. They come on the field, they just run away from their owner, go sniff for food. Run away from their owner, go sniff for food. Because what's happened is the dog goes like, I have no clue how to get reinforcement from you. So I'm just going to go do my own thing and maybe find something, because it's so much easier for me to go sniff on the dog agility field for a crumb of a cookie than it is to get a whole hot dog or a piece of hot dog out of your hand.
Yeah.
And so I think when it comes to training, and I'm talking about dog agility, just like in general as well, when you make the criteria or the what they have to do to get the reinforcement so difficult, so ambiguous that just is never going to happen for them, or they don't feel like they can have for them, that's when you get an animal that checks out.
Yeah. Daphne mentions ratio strain. That's what I was going to say is when, and it's usually, it could be a lot of different things. I'm just mentioning this for people who watching that may not know. When you're trying to chain behaviors, or maybe not even chain, but shape a behavior, and you're pushing the amount of your request, what you're asking, versus the rate at which the reinforcer is being delivered. Ratio strain. So, you ask the weave poles, I'm not familiar with agility, so I'm sorry. I'm somewhat familiar, but
Yeah.
the teeter-totter.
No, teeter-totter, it's great. No, seesaw, teeter-totter, it's interchangeable for sure.
And then you still haven't delivered the reinforcer, and you get what your dog is saying, like, hey, man, I'm giving these behaviors. Where's my reinforcement?
Right.
Well, Trevor, it's been an hour. I can't thank you enough.
Wow, it really has. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. We have so much more to talk about, and I thank you for everybody that joined us today. I thank you for bringing me on. It's been fantastic.
It's been an honor to have you on. It's great to be back in touch with you. And I have a couple of ideas.
Yes.
Regarding maybe some, I don't know. I don't know if just pay attention. Everybody that's watching, pay attention. I'm very happy to be back in touch with Trevor. Maybe Trevor, you and I sit once this live stream's over and talk about,
sure.
maybe we do something, maybe you and I pick a topic, or maybe the audience picks a topic and then you and I both show a video with different species of animal. This is how I would approach this, and have it be something that we train right. I don't know, might be kind of fun. Have it something that they want us to train, or
Yeah.
we just show, yeah, you.
That'd be
Okay.
great. No, like, I would love to, like, I think that everyone could love it, especially because I think we all have different animals. Like, you could do something fun that's cross species. Like, we could do like a platform, something like that, in target, or we could do hand target, like we talked with the camel. And wouldn't it be cool to, like, everyone with their different types of animals, like, show us these skills, and then we can talk about that? That'd be pretty cool. And we could also, of course, I can always bring in a challenge that's dog specific, with a little Laura Joseph spice to it, like, and things like that. Because, man, I have to, like, kind of do this to you, because when it comes to the scientific process and the setting up your criteria and stuff like that, you just have this natural ability to do that across species that I just love and adore. And I think it's crazy how talented that you can just be, and, like, it's almost like you're in sync with these animals at times.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate that.
So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And then, and who knows what will come from that when we start working.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, people who want to follow you, and I highly suggest you do follow Trevor on social media, because you're pretty active on social media. You're pretty active on your YouTube channel, aren't you? Well, you tell us. I mean, I know people can email you at info@thedoggydojo.com. So,
And what's awesome is that, let me see, over the live stream here, like, if you just take the info off and the .com off, and you want to follow me on YouTube, YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, you can definitely, like, just at the Doggie Dojo. And then also, if you want to interact with me on Facebook, that's the only one that's different. It's just Doggie Dojo without the D. So that's the brilliant part. So almost there. So that's Facebook. So those are watching here on Facebook, thank you for coming today. And then if you want it anywhere else, it's the Doggie Dojo. And that's great. And man, I'm just so excited. You have such an intelligent and animal loving community, and I'm thankful to just have a chance to talk with everybody that's here today. And thank you for joining us. And I'm looking forward to, if you do have a dog, answering your questions. I've definitely shifted my mindset a lot with my 2.5-year-old, and my 2.5-year-old has given me the love and attention that I need for me personally. Like, for me, I'm just wanting to give as much content to people to help them with their dogs as possible. It's great to have followers, and it's great to have likes, and great to have subscribers, all that stuff. But for me personally, I've just fallen in love with just helping as many people as possible to connect with their dogs. And so I'm just looking.
And that's very obvious in watching you work, Trevor.
So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm excited that one of you that comes in and joins the Doggie Dojo crew with your dogs, thank you so much for that. That means a lot to me. But I'm looking forward to working back on here in the Animal Behavior Center, when we just have some amazing times with our chats and other cool projects.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, everybody, don't forget to post your comments, and Trevor and I, or one of us, will come in and answer. Keep an eye out for anything upcoming. Stay tuned. And you will see Trevor here again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. See y'all soon.
Thanks so much.